Hey, what's up, Chase? Craig here with Own Boise, and I am here today with another amazing nonprofit during Idaho Gives Week. As you know, we are highlighting all sorts of nonprofits in the great state of Idaho and the Boise area. And as part of Giving Boise, instead of our interviewing Boise, we really want to bring awareness to these nonprofits. So I'm here with Ryan, who represents the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, specifically the Idaho chapter. Thanks for coming today, Ryan. I appreciate your time. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Chase. Thanks so much for having us here and featuring us on this great show you're doing.
Yeah, awesome. It's our pleasure. We're really excited. So let's just dive in. Tell us, what's your organization's mission?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. You know, it's just 11 words. It's to save lives and bring hope to those affected by suicide.
Wow, that's awesome. Short, sweet, to the point. I like it. So what caused you to become part of this organization specifically?
Yeah, so I started working like a lot of people do in college in a retail setting, and knew that I didn't want to spend my whole career sort of making money for other people. So I actually studied nonprofit management, and I have a master's degree in that. But specifically to this organization, when I got into nonprofits, there were a couple of areas that were personally impactful to me. One of them was mental health and substance abuse. It's impacted myself and my family. And I think one of the things that's true for me, that's probably true for a lot of people, is that before I had started learning about what it means to actually struggle with thoughts of suicide, or, even talking about it amongst family and friends, you don't really realize how much it impacts people. And I was one that had struggled, but I didn't really put a title to it, to a name to it or anything like that. But for me, this cause is so important because in a lot of ways, it's still taboo to talk suicide and mental health. And so me, along with so many other people in the state of Idaho that are volunteering their time, are coming together now to achieve our mission, which I just mentioned.
That's awesome. So what are some of the things that your organization has accomplished?
Yeah, so we focus a little bit differently than other maybe suicide prevention organizations in that we're upstream. So we fund suicide prevention research. So we started in 1987 as an organization that just funds research because no one was doing it now or then, and there's still not many people doing it now. And we also educate people in suicide prevention. So we have programs from that educate basic community members like you and I, all the way up to medical professionals. So one exciting things that we launched a few years ago, something called Project 2025. And this is an initiative to reduce the rate of suicide in the United States 20% by 2025. And through the work with the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, an organization called the Idaho Suicide Prevention Action Collective, which and I personally contribute to, the state of Idaho has also adopted that goal to reduce the rate of suicide 20% by the year 2025. And there's a whole 5-year plan that exists for specifically the state of Idaho that we're helping to implement at this point.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a great goal. So let me ask you this, in terms of Idaho, what's the impact on people in Idaho? How many people do you think are impacted?
So what we know for sure with Idaho is that it consistently ranks as one of the states within the top 5 having the highest rate of suicide per 100,000. We get the data from the CDC, and it takes a couple of years for it to be accurate. So right now, the best data, the most current data we have is from 2018. And in that year, Idaho had the 5th highest rate of suicide among all states, where 417 people died by suicide in 2018. And so that rate per 100,000 is 23.92 people died by suicide per 100,000. And so in terms of rate, Idaho ranks as one of the higher states in the U.S., and that's really not a thing we want to rate highest on.
Yeah, no, for sure. So give me an idea of what your organization has accomplished since you guys have been around.
Nationally, we've got the whole laundry list of accomplishments in terms of research funded and things like that. But locally, Our Idaho chapter is relatively new. We're still relatively small, but in our last year that we did programs with our education programs alone, we reached over 1,000 people with evidence-based suicide prevention education programs. And this is all from grassroots fundraising from community members in our Out of the Darkness walks. In addition to that, we had an International Survivors of Suicide Loss Day event at the library in Boise, and that I think had around 40 people attend that. It's another free event. We also have a program in the state, and it's available everywhere in the state. It's called Healing Conversations, where anybody who's lost a loved one can reach out and get connected to another lost survivor in the state who's also lost a loved one to suicide. And that program, I think, is not as well known. So we only had, I think, maybe 12 requests, but we fulfilled all of those visits. And so really, we're working in so many different ways. But yeah, with our education programs, we reached over 1,000 people in person with those programs.
That's great.
We also contribute, so many people might not know this, but through the Department of Health and Welfare, there are packets for loss survivors. So anytime a person dies by suicide in the state, the county coroners are made aware and have this available resource that has all kinds of information for them in the aftermath of a suicide, like what to do. And we at AFSP contributed to that packet of information that also other organizations contributed to as well.
Great. So how can people either get involved or maybe donate? Like, is that, how can we help if we wanted to get involved?
Yeah, so, this being Idaho Gives over the next couple of weeks, we'd love to make a contribution if they can. We understand that there's a lot of people that aren't working and that life has changed a lot. And so there's a couple of different ways. We still have virtual volunteer opportunities. And so if people go to our chapter website, it's just afsp.org/Idaho. You can get connected as a volunteer application there. My contact information is also on that page, and you reach out to there. But one really easy thing that doesn't necessarily, you don't need to be required to volunteer or have permission to do this, is to just call a friend or a family member and reach out to them and just check in and say, hey, how you doing? Like, I'm here to listen. That is something that we know can save lives. If you just call, check in with someone you're worried about, or even someone you're just thinking about, let them know you're thinking about them. And then if they are kind of struggling through with this pandemic or family, whatever the case is, just be there, be a good listening ear. And I think that, to me, would make the most difference. If people are out there, just check in with someone you're thinking about and just listen, see if they've got something going on. And if you need help in pointing them in the right direction for resources, reach out to us. But the best thing you can do is just reach out to someone, let them know you're there for them, and listen.
I love that. Just be present and connect. I love that. That's great advice. So, hey, Ryan, it's been a pleasure getting to know what you do, and thank you so much for all you do, with your nonprofit at American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, specifically the newer Idaho chapter, which is awesome. So we'll make sure we give links and show where people can volunteer and or donate. So thanks again, Ryan. Really appreciate your time.
That sounds great. Thanks so much for having us.